Oh dear. Do you know earlier Howard said, oh, will you come onto the Late Show with me to answer the emails? He said, it's so much easier. He said, I don't really read that well. And I said, okay then. I said, I'll come and do that. And I've done that before. And then 5 minutes before I left our flat, he said, I'm still getting some editing done for the Late Show. He said, so, you start. He said, and then I'll get there when I can. I said, oh, no. I said, that is not the way it works for the Late Show. I'm not a Late Show person. I'm very comfortable with our mornings. Don't mind coming and reading the emails, but I'm not the right person for the Late Show. Anyway, he said, I've already prepared a couple of videos. He said, by the time you show those, he said, I'll probably be in the studio. And then I thought about it and I thought, something I've actually wanted to do for a little while is read something to you, but it's never really appropriate for our mornings. And I just want to read the Hamas Charter. This book that is Gordon has written, Israel, Gaza and Hamas. I mean, I'm not trying to sit here and promote the book. I mean, about 1,000 books have already gone out, and I know so many of you have got it. But I've read this book, and I thought I had a pretty good handle over what was going on in Israel, Gaza, and of course the terrorist group Hamas. But when I started to read this book, I could not believe it. It's given me so much ammunition to be able to speak to people and just really sort of with authority be able to tell them, what Hamas is really all about, sort of going back to the origins, to talk about the ethos of the Palestinians themselves, and really the whole history of why Israel has the right to own and defend its land. It's been absolutely incredible. I've read it once and I've even started to read it again. But I thought, while I'm on my own, I've got no interruption, let me just read a little bit of this that Gordon has written, because, if you had any sympathy whatsoever or any hope that there could be peace or a two-state solution, just listen to some of what it says here. Gordon says, most countries in the world have founding documents. These are documents which set out how the country will run. Britain must be one of the few countries which does not have such a thing. The nearest Britain has to great historical documents which spell out the British constituency and the rights of the people are the Magna Carta, the Petition of Rights, and the English Bill of Rights. When Hamas evolved out of the Muslim Brotherhood in 1987, it set to work on its organisational charter and published it in August 1988. To make sense of what has happened and what is happening even today in Gaza, we need to focus in on this charter. Very clearly and precisely, the Charter highlights Palestinian nationalism, Islamic Sharia law, and the total rejection of any involvement with Israel. It states very clearly that it is only through violence, jihad means holy war, that the destruction of Israel and the creation of an Islamic state in Palestine can be achieved. And to understand Hamas, you really do need to understand their charter. Copies of it are available in English on the web. The charter sets out Hamas's ideology in 36 separate articles, all of which promote the Hamas goal of destroying the state of Israel through jihad, Islamic holy war, as well as the murder of every Jew in the world. Hamas's teaching loves to quote, it is undergirded by Islamic theology, which according to Hamas says that Israel must be removed and destroyed. They believe that the very existence of Israel is not right and that Israel should no longer exist as a country. To understand what really is happening in the Middle East, and especially towards Israel, we must take the contents of the Charter seriously. The Islamic resistance movement is a distinguished Palestinian movement whose allegiance is to Allah and whose way of life is Islam. It strives to raise the banner of Allah over every inch of Palestine. That's Article 6 of the Charter. Regarding the destruction of Israel, Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it. And so therefore, Gordon says there's no point in even thinking of a two-state solution. All Hamas want to do is destroy Israel. Rejection of a negotiated peace settlement. Peace initiatives and so-called peaceful solutions and international conferences are in contradiction to the principles of the Islamic resistance movement. Those conferences are no more than a means to appoint the infidels as arbitrators in the lands of Islam. There is no solution for the Palestinian problem except by jihad. Initiatives, proposals, and international conferences are but a waste of time and exercise in futility. And that's Article 13. I'll read just a little bit more. It's incredible. Condemnation of the Israel-Egypt peace treaty. Egypt was, to a great extent, removed from the circle of struggle against Zionism through the treacherous Camp David agreement. The Zionists, that is Israel, are trying to draw other countries into similar agreements in order to bring them outside the circle of struggle. Leaving the circle of struggle against Zionism is high treason, okay, if you leave it. And cursed be he who perpetrates such an act. That's Article 32. I mean, it goes on and on. I'll read just a little bit more. The day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight Jews and kill them. Then the Jews will hide between rocks and trees, and the rocks and trees will cry out, O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill him. Article 7. I mean, these are articles from Hamas's own charter. So all of those in government, various governments, who think that they can actually get everyone round the table and organise a peace treaty really need to read Hamas's charter, and then they might be able to find out exactly what their intentions are. If you don't have a copy of this book, you can phone our office anytime between 9 and 5, and for a donation of £20, we'll be delighted to send you one. But as I say, I'm not sitting here trying to promote the book, because already 1,000 of the 2,000 that we have gone, and the book's only been in circulation, I think, for about 3 weeks or so. But it is absolutely fascinating. He talks about the finances of Hamas. I mean, they're an absolute multi-million, $1 billion organisation. I mean, it's just incredible. And he also talks about a time when Gaza was a Christian country, or a Christian piece of the land. And he says Gaza becomes Christian for a time. Speaks about ethnic cleansing, the Arab nations, so many. And of course, whose land is it? And if you really want to be able to get all of your ducks in a row to make a firm case for whose land is it, you just need to learn a little bit about what is in this book. So anyway, that is that. Your emails will be very, very welcome. I really am relying on Howard to join me this evening, because I'm not ready to do this programme by myself. But he has prepared a video, and it's from a TV organisation called Pulse of Israel. And it's the first clip is actually called Answer to Jew Hatred.
Shalom, shalom, everybody. No, this isn't the ancestral Judean hills. This is New York City. And believe me, I prefer to be in the ancestral Judean hills. In the meantime, just blocks away from where I am walking right now, a number of weeks ago, there was a mob, anti-Israel, Jew-hating mob, who took over the streets, like literally the streets down here, Lexington Avenue, and stopping traffic. The police didn't stop them. And one man, Jewish man, was harassed in his car. That's the reality that is taking place today, where Jews can be harassed, that the police, even though in the end they came and stopped him from being harassed, the guy was afraid for his life because he was surrounded by a mob who wanted to pull him out of the car and beat him up. But he did get arrested and was sent to jail. The bottom line is, the reality is Jews today, whether on the streets of New York City, whether in Columbia University, Barnard University, Berkeley University, or even on the streets of Los Angeles, Jews are on the defense. And sometimes we don't even know we're on the defense because it comes out of the blue. Now, again, here I am walking the streets, and yeah, life is normal that Jews can live life wherever they're living in communities here. But it's a different normal. It's a normal where you know that at any given moment, Jew-hating anti-Semitism can come up and bite you. When they're in the streets, walking by a protest, no protest, or on your college campus. That's the new reality. And it's a scary reality. And like I keep on telling you, this is a reality that's not going away. Not only is it not going away, it's going to get worse. This is just the very beginning of it. Now, I care about each and every person in the world, definitely freedom-loving people. And yes, I care about my fellow Jews. And I don't want them to be afraid, and I don't want them to have to be on the defense. Now, in terms of defending themselves against literal violence, that I can't help with. But I can help in helping them be able to be prepared with the right information and headspace and pride to stand up to the hatred that is all around us. And that has to do with understanding the true story of who we are as Jewish people, our true story of Israeli history, Jewish history in the ancestral homeland, that Israel today is the third Jewish commonwealth, the third time the Jews are sovereign back in their ancestral homeland. And for people to understand the wars and to understand the Islamo-Nazi hatred against us that's been trying to kill us back in the 1920s and the 1930s, before the state of Israel even came to exist in 1948. Before Israel liberated Judea and Samaria, before the first settlement, before we had soldiers in Judea and Samaria, before they made up all these lies of apartheid and occupation and yada yada, all lies. There were no Palestinians even before 1948, before the 1960s. It's all been made up and created. I am here to help every Jew go on the offense. And it's not just about knowing the history. What are we living in our ancestral homeland for? What's our purpose? What do we want to make out of the land of Israel, the Jewish homeland of the Jewish people? Because every day headlines are only focused upon what the problem is and how do we solve this problem. Whether the problem is Gaza, or the problem is Lebanon, or the problem is local Arab Muslims, or the problem is judicial problems. Whatever it is, it's always focusing just on problems or trying to solve problems. I want people to understand the vision. What are we about, the Jewish people? Why are we back in our ancestral homeland? What does the future look for us? How is it going to be a positive future? And hence, we're having our conference in Jerusalem at the Begin Center on June 30th, live streamed for everyone all over the world to be able to watch. Are you registered to watch that live stream? Are you in Israel buying a ticket so you can come be live at the conference on June 30th at the Begin Center? Well, click on the link below and join us, whether live at the Begin Center or via the live stream anywhere in the world. We are about helping you, each and every person out there, whether a Jew or non-Jew, be proud in standing up for the Jewish people and the Jewish state of Israel and be able to go on the offense every single day. Do not feel the weakness of always playing defense, always just fighting off the daily lie that, I call whack-a-mole, because every day is a daily lie. Oh, they did a genocide. Oh, it's apartheid. Oh, mass graves. Oh, this. Oh, civilians. All lies. All lies. You know me, folks. The Pulse of Israel, we're about giving you the truth and to be able to feel proud in standing up for Israel. And if you're a Jew, feel proud of your Jewish identity, not to be swayed by all the lies. So click on the link below and be part of the future. Because we here in Israel and the Jewish people, we're not just standing up for Israel and Jews, we're standing up for the whole freedom-loving world. And you could be a part of it, and you could be more empowered with more of the tools by being inspired with a positive vision for our future. So if you do not yet sign up and register, click on the link below, and I hope to see you there either in person or live via the live stream. Shalom, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to do more videos back in our ancestral homeland of the Jewish people, please God, when I return home.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land.
Okay, I'm very happy to say that I have got some emails and texts. Phew. Okay, good evening to you, Dawn. Says, Leslie, you're doing so well on your own this evening. Well, thank you. And thank you for standing in. She says, of course, Israel has the right to have the state. Of course, Israel has the right to have the state of Israel. God gave Jacob and his family a great area of the Middle Eastern world. The other countries today are run by Muslims. They have enough of the land that was given to Jacob, Israel. Dave says, Gordon has told us the truth in his book. We, the believers in God, know that. It's getting it through to the non-believers and those who are anti-Jew. It will be a very hard task. And I mean, I sit in the office all day working away and speaking to so many of you on the phone. And quite a lot of people have ordered 2, 3, 4 books, say, I'm going to give this to my daughter. I'm going to give this to my next door neighbour. I'm going to give this to my pastor. People who just cannot get it. John says, my wife and I are going to give money to Israel. Can it be done through Revelation TV? Would it go to them? You're doing a good job. No, if you're going to give money directly to Israel, then find a ministry that is connected to Israel and then send it directly to them. Hi, Leslie. It's lovely to see you, my precious sister. Hope you're well. Well, I was until I was suddenly all on my own in here, and Howard said he's going to get here when he can because he's busy working on an edit. Can you believe it? It's not even my programme. In the evenings, I like to lie on the sofa, put my feet up, have a nice cup of coffee and watch The Late Show. Well, not this evening. I believe we shall see civil war in the UK by April 2025. For Israel and Hamas conflict, along with extreme abortion and LGBT ideology, along with cost of living and draconian laws like we'd witnessed during the pandemic, which became scandemic, shall bring all of this about, says Ian. Thanks very much for sharing that, Ian. My goodness, thank you for reading that, the Hamas Charter. It is deplorable. I'm definitely going to grab a copy. Good evening, Leslie, says Paul and Ruth. God bless you. We are reading the book. It's so sad. Islam has to be eradicated. Like you said, there can be no two-state solution. God bless Israel and the Christians of the world. Well, thanks very much for sending that to me. Speaking about the person from Pulse TV, oh, I think I can hear some movement. Would you believe it? I think he's arrived. I might have a few things to say to him, but I might save that till later in the programme. You watch, I bet he walks right across my screen, straight in on the chair. I knew you were going to do that. Sorry. While you're putting your mic on, I just want to follow up an article in Gordon's book called Antisemitism in Today's World. I'm just going to have one little story here. It says, in early 2024, British News reported that the Conservative Justice Minister, whose office had been hit by an arson attack and who wears a stab vest when he is out and about in his constituency, announced, I've been driven out by politics by death threats for supporting Israel. Mike Freer is the person in question. His constituency is home to one of the largest Jewish populations in the United Kingdom. He has been their constituency member of Parliament for 14 years. He's not Jewish, but he believes his outspoken views, do excuse the back of my husband's head, as I'm trying to read about Mike Freer very professionally.
Mike is in such a mess.
He's not Jewish, but he believes his outspoken views on Israel and strong support for the Jewish community have led him to be targeted by anti-Semites. His election as the MP for Finchley and Golders Green in 2010 coincided with the year that the Labour MP Stephen Timms was stabbed by an Al-Qaeda sympathiser but survived. And soon after that, Mike Freer received his first death threat. The message was from a group called Muslims Against Crusades and told him, "Let Stephen Timms be a warning to you," and he urged supporters to get him. A dozen supporters of the group burst into an event he was holding at the North Finchley Mosque, with one calling him a Jewish homosexual pig who was defiling the house of Allah. I mean, anti-Semitism, and this guy is not even Jewish. Okay, let's go to a promo now. Talks about the way that you can obtain Gordon's book, Israel, Gaza and Hamas, if you are interested.
Students are protesting in campuses across the United Kingdom and beyond. But what are they really protesting about? A YouGov poll in The Economist found that 1 in 5 young people believe that the Holocaust is a myth. 20% of young people aged 18 to 29 stated that they believe that the murder of 6 million Jews in death camps in the 1940s never happened. I wonder what planet they're on. The truth is out there, but they're choosing to ignore it, as so many are ignoring what happened in Israel on the 7th of October 2023. The New York Times decided to do an in-depth study of what happened in one village in southern Israel, where at least 97 civilians were murdered by the Hamas terrorists. They sent their hard-nosed reporters to sniff out the facts. The reporters examined all the videos, the statements, the articles, the allegations. Then they checked them, verified them, put the videos into context. There's no doubt about it, wrote one of the New York Times reporters, the murders, the rapes, the horrific attacks happened. I didn't want to, but I felt that I had to document the facts of what happened on October the 7th and why. This book, Israel, Gaza and Hamas, will tell you the truth. Details of how to obtain it are on the screen.
So just as I'm getting going, Howard, with all of my emails from all of the viewers, you've decided to join me, so I'll give you the stage. What would you like to talk about?
First of all, I apologise that I'm in my work clothes because I was having to edit something which I thought was really important to get into the programme. And so I apologise for my attire, not that it makes a lot of difference sometimes anyway.
You always have a black shirt on.
But there's so much that we can be showing you, and as I say, that we're a small team and a lot of this is lastminutethings.com. But yes, this particular piece we're going to show you next is when the rescue took place. And you will also be seeing a little bit after that, when I come back to you, the body armour, the body cam, with the IDF going in to rescue Noah and the other hostages as well that were rescued last weekend. So have a look at this. I did a voiceover to help you to understand, because some of the letters and the explanations are a little bit quick on the screen. She asked me, "Is my mother still alive?" Shlomi turned to me and said, "We want to see you again. We want to see you. In the end, you reach a result that is, for the people of Israel, the best result there is." We reached the door of the apartment that was closed. We broke it. Hebrew, Hebrew, where is everyone?
הרגענו אותם עד כמה שניתן, הסברנו להם שאנחנו כוחות צבא שהגיעו להוציא אותם ולחלץ אותם. העברנו להם את האפודים שלנו, את הקסדות שלנו, מיגנו אותם. אמרנו אמרנו להם עכשיו שהם הולכים לעבור לידי הצבא.
So Shlomi turns around and says to me, we want to see you again. We want to see you again.
אנחנו רוצים לראות אתכם עוד, אנחנו רוצים שוב לראות אתכם.
I said to him, we will see you. Let's start with you going home safely. And things worked out. On the way there were three terrorists, three armed terrorists.
שנטרלנו, פרצנו את הדלת של החדר של נועה, פגשנו אותה שמה, מאוד מבוהלת.
One of the fighters who arrived said to Noah, we came to save you. We came to take you home. We decided very quickly to simply carry her on our backs. One of the fighters carried her on his back to be a kind of human body shield for her, and we assigned 2 soldiers from each side. The question she asked was, is my mother still alive? I said yes. She looked at everyone. She said, are you sure? And I think that slowly, as we continued the journey, she started to calm down. I'm very excited. I'm just very scared of the road. Our last conversation before leaving for the operation. We understood the price. We understood the size of the mission. His gaze, a gaze of a believer in the way, a believer in justice. For the most valuable mission you could ask for. We talked about it. It's worth every price, including ours. I think it's amazing, really, the bravery of the IDF soldiers. And you might think, well, what about the bravery of Hamas and all of that? And there's always that side that people will be considering as well. But the thing is that who attacked who? Who really was the one that actually caused the beginning of all this distress, which was Hamas in October the 7th. So what we have now as well, to show you that, again, the bravery of these soldiers coming into a fully armed place, really, with the Hamas soldiers being everywhere and nowhere, as it was in that sense, not knowing what was around the next corner. But all that they're practicing of doing this particular rescue was meticulous, really. And again, it took bravery, and they're so calm, the soldiers, really, when you think about it. But this is the body cam that you're going to be seeing next. And we'll just talk through it, and maybe even Leslie, if you have a look at this, you probably haven't seen this, just see how brave the soldiers were. This is when they got out the tanks and everything, and they were all coming up to where the area was, where they knew they'd already found where these hostages were, but they just needed to quickly act and get into the area where these hostages were, so that it was as much a surprise rescue and attack as possible. But again, you know, the soldiers, so brave, because they're the ones really at risk, not knowing where Hamas might come up in a tunnel or in a house, and some of the places that they were hiding the hostages were, one was an Al Jazeera, apparently reporter for Al Jazeera, and I think it was 2 of the hostages as well, the 2 males that were rescued, were also held by ordinary so-called citizens of Gaza. But as you see here, they're starting to home in on the area where you would actually... And they may contain some graphic images, my producer's saying, so bear that in mind. But again, you know, it's you can't really say it's an exciting time, because the thing is, the fear that could have really come into the soldiers at this time would have been tremendous. And you can see the way in which they actually went into the home. They had to be really quick, because they knew where the hostages were through intelligence and or research and everything else. So they broke into the home, presumably of one of the hostages, if you like, captors. Went in there and were going from room to room to try and find where the hostages were. And obviously having to be careful, because, you know, if there was a Hamas shoulder soldier in there, then they would have been retaliating as well. But they did come across the retaliation, as it were, from Hamas when they started to try and escape. I think that's when it mostly happened. But again, playing it easy. What do you think, Liz?
Wow.
You've not seen this, have you?
No, I haven't seen this. I mean, I'm absolutely fascinated.
This is one of the bedrooms where the hostages were.
And I know the hostages were absolutely terrified.
They were,
because they didn't trust anyone.
Yeah, they didn't know who was after who.
Yeah.
And of course, that's why in the first clip that I showed you, I was adding some of the as it were, narration to the text that was on the screen. But again, coming back now with the hostages, getting back into the tanks, and then actually taking them to meet the rescue of the helicopter on the Gaza beach, and just amazing, you know. And
then we did see the reconciliation and the sort of reunions with their families. Absolutely incredible.
Well, we thank the IDF for the footage.
They lost one of their leaders, didn't they?
They did, sadly. They did.
Really sadly.
You know, so.
Yeah. Okay, let me just read a couple more emails. Howard, whilst we were waiting for you to arrive, I actually read out parts of the Hamas Charter.
Right, okay.
Because what I was saying was that really, if anybody thinks there can be peace between these groups, let's read parts of the Charter.
And what did, because I haven't read it, but I've heard about it. But I mean, what was the high point?
Well, the only way is to eradicate the Jews. There is no, and it's in their charter, in Hamas's charter. There is no other way forward.
Rubbish about two-state solutions not in their
exactly what
agenda,
I said.
on their agenda
Not
at all. It's just to totally eradicate Israel of the Jews, and also across the world.
Yes, exactly, and across the world. Satinder says it's no surprise the Hamas Charter calls for the elimination of Israel, which just echoes what is written in the Old Testament. In Psalm 83:4 it says, "Come," they say, "let us destroy them as a nation, so that Israel's name is remembered no more." I went out with my cousin a couple of weeks ago. He says they're not believers. However, when I showed them this verse, they nodded their heads in agreement. After I said, "Does this sound familiar?" Bible prophecy is a great witness, especially in these days. Non-believers are saying that things are falling apart. But as believers, our view is that things are coming together just as the Bible says.
Yeah, well said, Satinder. It is amazing just how reliable the scriptures are, and they're proving to be reliable because prophecy, which is history written in advance, has come to pass. And what we're seeing, just for those of you maybe first time switching on to Revelation TV, is that the Bible recorded thousands of years ago, at least 2,500 years ago, when the minor prophets were also involved in the writings here. And Zechariah particularly, in chapters 12 through 14, you will see that there's a prediction there that the nations at one stage in the future will all come against Israel. And even its allies, like Biden, America, so-called, and I'm not talking about all Americans, but I mean the leaders, and even the leaders of the Western countries, even our own country, will get so fed up with Israel that they'll side with the rest of the world and come against Israel to wipe it out. And that might seem incredulous, but it actually is heading for that right now. And we see that as a fulfillment, not only of prophecy, but a fulfillment of the time when Jesus Christ said he was coming again. And also that's recorded in chapter 14 of Zechariah, the book of Zechariah. Have a look at that. You will understand then that's when the Messiah comes back in order to stand in on behalf of Israel. And Jesus has mentioned in the scriptures that he will come again at a time when even all of Israel has not heard the good news of the New Testament, let me put it like that, because he is coming to rule. And when they see the Messiah, they weep. They realize that Jesus Christ, the Nazarene, as they called him, is the one who is their Messiah. But they remain blind for this period of time for our sakes. The Gentiles have to come in. This is Romans chapter 11. Romans chapter 11 blew me away when I first read it. I was only 21 years old. And for me to be able to see that the Jews had been blinded as to who their Messiah was and is until we as the Gentiles come in. But we were also, if you like, warned not to be arrogant in thinking that we replaced the Jews. It's called replacement theology in a nutshell. And if we get into that mindset, we're on a hiding to nothing, because God warns us through the Apostle Paul that we will be, as I say, missing the point, because he said, I will lop you off, just as the Jews and the nation of Israel is represented by the olive tree, and its branches have been lopped off so that we, the Gentiles, could be grafted in. That's what it says. It's quite, you know, when I read it, and I was 21 years of age, and I hadn't read a book in my life, and I read this, how is it an ignoramus like myself could grasp it and see it when the intelligent people that are out there can't see it? I just don't understand. How blind can those who see are, and without having an ear to hear? How deaf are you? I've stopped ranting.
That's okay. Just checking that I'm working out this. I haven't used this iPad before, so I'm kind of struggling a bit.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, if you've still got problems with your emails and everything, let's go to the second Pulse video that I've got. This is the one, probably because I wasn't here at the beginning, as I say, I was upstairs doing editing. This is where our dear friend actually talks about how really it is back in New York. I think he's walking the streets in New York. Tell me, Mr. Producer.
No, we've had the one actually, Howard, that we're going to be doing now is the Gantz Rebellion Exposed.
Oh no, well, I haven't seen Pulse 2.
Answer to Jew hatred?
Yes.
We have.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, you know why?
No, because I wasn't here, but
You weren't here.
Dear
That's the only one we have done.
All right. All right. I'll let you do it because you were here.
I was here.
I'll just sit and have a drink of water.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to go in a couple of minutes to this next one, Gantz Rebellion Exposed. But before that, I'm just going to read out a few emails from our viewers. Is that all right with you?
I think I'll go home.
Cram says, "Hi Leslie, I'm so glad to be with you again tonight. Hope Howard's got the rest of the show sorted when he gets there."
I thought I had.
Yeah, evening Howard and Leslie. Yes, it's evident the bloodshed from Islamic jihads, and this the Lord detests, says Carl. Okay. I've been looking at scripture before I've even got to Gordon's study of whose land it is, so I came up with these scriptures. Well, there's quite a few scriptures that you've come up with, but we haven't actually got time to go into our Bibles to find them this evening.
Outline them anyway.
We'll have a look afterwards.
Oh.
Margaret says, I've noticed Howard has arrived, so you're not on your own anymore. As for Gordon's book, it is absolutely a very informative read. Thank you for all that Revelation is doing for the Jewish people. May God bless you. Dory says, hi both, I've ordered 2 copies of Gordon's book, one for my church, which does support Israel, but it will fill in some gaps in their knowledge. The other is for a guy who is a high-profile figure online, born again, but anti-Zionist. Okay. A report by Amir Safati from a dear lady, Adar Sagi, who has fought for peace between the Jews and Palestinians for many years, was abducted on the 7th of October and kept imprisoned by civilian Gazans for 6 months, now says there cannot and will not be peace with Israel and Palestine. Ada Ghazi says her ordeal destroyed her belief in any hope of peace. Thank you for highlighting the truth. Okay, thanks very much for your emails and texts. So let's go to our second piece now.
People are asking me, what is going on with Gantz resigning from the Israeli government in the middle of the war? It's a great question. Many Israelis are asking that same question because it doesn't make sense. Gantz didn't even give a reason. Gantz resigned from the government in the middle of a war. We haven't finished the job in Gaza, and we haven't even started
the job of the war in Lebanon. This is an existential war against Iran and the Sunni Muslim Brotherhood Hamas organization supported by Qatar. They are literally working together on a plan to destroy Israel while the world pressures Israel and allows them to continue to destroy us and not stop them. Gantz knows this, and yet he leaves the government in the middle of the war? Gantz has always said public statements saying, no politics, Israel is above everything else, right? That's why he joined the government for a unity government for the war. Yet it ends up that it is Gantz who is the one who has been playing politics the whole time. Well, how do we know this? Well, how can Gantz complain about the war effort and claim that the government hasn't done enough to free the hostages when he, Gantz, and his partner, Gadi Eisenstock, have been partners to all the war decisions with Netanyahu in the war cabinet? They've been there. They made the decisions with Netanyahu. Gantz complains about the influence of Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, but Smotrich and Ben-Gvir are not in the war cabinet making the decisions. Gantz is with Eisenkot and Netanyahu. Gantz vetoed the presence of Smotrich and Ben-Gvir in the war cabinet. He is responsible for every single war decision and ceasefire deal decision. So if Gantz has any complaints, he only has himself to blame. So why is he leaving the government that he's responsible for the decisions? What's going on? The whole war effort and ceasefire deal talks were due to his influence. Gantz was stopping the war himself by being in the war cabinet, always pushing for more time in order to try the talks. Well, the answer is actually very, very simple. Sad, but simple. Gantz has been a poodle of the Biden administration, trying to stop this war and topple the Netanyahu government with horrible ceasefire deals since day one of the war. Listen to this. Just last week, the Biden administration said that an Israeli government without Gantz can't be trusted. Now, what does that mean? It means that Gantz was their man in the Israeli government, and now with him out of the government, they have no way of controlling the Netanyahu government anymore. Gantz was a puppet of the Biden administration in the Israeli government. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken just came to Israel to meet with Gantz. Why? Gantz resigned from the government. He is not even the head of the opposition. So why is Blinken meeting him? Well, now we know. He's a puppet of the U.S. government. So why did Gantz leave the government? Because he got orders from the Biden administration since he did not manage to stop the war or topple the government via disastrous ceasefire deals because Hamas said no to every deal. So now the Biden administration goes to plan B, bring down the Netanyahu government with Gantz in the opposition. Because with Gantz in the government, it was hard to rally the masses of Israelis in the middle of the war to topple the government. And they now think plan B is by having Gantz outside the government, it will be easier to rally the masses of Israelis to create chaos in Israeli society and topple the Netanyahu government. Well, what chaos? Listen to what the anarchists in Israel are planning from their own mouths. You are about to see a zoom of the anti-Netanyahu protest leaders as one of those leaders discusses the upcoming strategy of anarchy to topple the government that they want to start on June 16th. So why is Blinken here? Now you know.
אנחנו החל מה-16 מגבירים הילוך. עכשיו, מה המשמעות של הגברת הילוך? המשמעות של הגברת הילוך היא לעבור מהפגנות בשבת ופה ושם איזשהם מהלכים, להפגנות רציפות, הפגנות על בסיס יומיומי, לאי ציות אזרחי על בסיס יומיומי.
מרי אזרחי זה דבר חשוב מאוד.
ולהשבתות על בסיס יומיומי. אני אומר עוד פעם, גם הפגנות, גם אי-ציות אזרחי, וגם שביתות והשבתות על בסיס יומיומי. לעבודה, אי-ציות אזרחי.
Now you know why Gantz resigned from the government, in order for the Biden administration to support mass anarchy in the streets of Israel to topple the Netanyahu government, and Blinken is right here giving those orders. Guess what, everybody? They will fail. Why will they fail? Because a vast majority of the Jewish people in Israel want victory in this war, so that all Israelis from up north and from down south can return to their homes and live in safety without ever having threats of terror or rockets shot at them. A majority of the Israeli Jews have woken up to realize that the years of consecutive protests against Netanyahu, all about different issues each time, they're not about making the country a better place. They are led by people with a deep hatred to their authentic Jewish identity who don't want Israel to be a strong Jewish state. And they will lie, scream, and ruin the life for everyone else here in Israel out of their hatred. And most Israelis don't want any part of it anymore. The masses will not follow these upcoming protests, and it will not topple the government in the middle of this war. They will cause anger, frustration, and discomfort to our lives if they succeed with all of their civil disobedience, as they said in their strategy. But they will fail because the vast majority of the Jewish people in Israel are not with them. Those protest leaders have exposed themselves as supporting refusal to serve in the IDF, and they brought about, by their refusal to serve, the massacre of October 7th by showing our enemies that our IDF army would not be prepared for a surprise attack on October 7th. And the people of Israel today want victory in this war. We will achieve that. We will overcome our enemies, Iran, Qatar, the Muslim Brotherhood, our frenemies, the Biden administration, and our internal challenges like these protest movement leaders. It is not a simple challenge at all, but we will overcome. Maybe now, with Gantz out of the government, we will finally be able to have a government that will finally put together a war policy to win. Because even though we have had many, many tactical wins in Gaza, strategically, the army is not winning. Because every time we have a tactical win, the army pulls out. You cannot control an area, you cannot defeat an enemy if you pull out and let the enemy regroup and rearm in that same area where our soldiers just were. Now we have a chance to have a government with a true war policy that won't just be tactical wins for the headlines, but a strategic win. And a strategic win is having the Israeli army push kilometer by kilometer, mile by mile, and push Hamas out, push all Gaza civilians out, and we take over the land, kilometer by kilometer, mile by mile. That is the law of war 101. An enemy attacks from land, you defeat the enemy, take that land, push them out, and then you move on. You don't let them come back and then attack you again from that same area. It's time the Israeli army puts a proper strategy in place, and hopefully with Gantz out of the government and the Biden administration out of the government, even with all the pressure from them from the outside, we will finally have a winning policy to win this war in Gaza and win in Lebanon against Iran and Hezbollah. It's not going to be easy. There will be internal chaos that's being supported by the Biden administration, but we're going to overcome it all, everyone. Am Yisrael Chai. Pray, pray, pray. Hold on to your faith in the one above. Strengthen your faith in the one above. It's the soldiers on the ground and our faith in the one above that we're going to win this war. It is up to us. Support Israel, support our holy soldiers, support Netanyahu and this government up against all these challenges, external and internal. We're going to overcome it all, everybody. Shalom, everybody, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land.
I can hear Avi's voice wearing out because he does such a lot of trying to get the point of view across to the nations through his Pulse videos to help people to understand the history. And this is why it comes down to, Leslie, all the time, it's people not understanding the whole history of Israel.
That's the thing. And that's exactly what I was saying.
And it's right to be
earlier.
there, that's the thing. Yeah.
Exactly, that's right, yeah. I mean, let me just read a little bit here about Gaza. It's quite interesting in this book, Israel, Gaza and Hamas. It says, to understand the hatred felt by some of those who live in Gaza towards Israel, we need to look at its history. I'm not going to go right into the history, but listen to this. Gaza is a strip of land squeezed between the Negev and Sinai deserts on one side and the Mediterranean Sea in the other. It's about the size of the Isle of Wight. But the Isle of Wight has a population of 142,000 and Gaza has over 2 million people. On its border, Gaza has both Israel and Egypt. It's perhaps best been described as a marginal area of land that neither Israel nor Egypt want. That's how it's often been described. Yet, Gaza could be a beautiful country. It could have some of the finest beaches on the whole of the Mediterranean. Imagine the jobs and wealth that could be created if some of the world's major hotel groups began to invest in the country and encourage tourism. How wonderful for the people of Gaza if they could swim and relax beside the waters of the Mediterranean. It's also been suggested that the Gaza Strip could become the Singapore of the Middle East, a vibrant business and financial centre with good employment, lots of wealth and business. Could it be possible? Avigdor Lieberman, in a speech in late 2016, when he was Israel's Minister of Defence, said, I want to be clear, If they, meaning Hamas, make the decision to stop digging tunnels, smuggling arms and firing rockets at us, we will be the first investors in the rehabilitation of the Gaza Strip. We will be the first to invest in a maritime trading port, airport and an industrial zone. Gaza could one day be the new Hong Kong or Singapore. Sadly, whilst Hamas is controlling the country, neither is ever likely to happen.
Yeah, they had an opportunity to do amazing things in Gaza when Israel gave it up all those years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a thriving place. It had lots of agriculture.
Look, all the greenhouses.
It was amazing.
They smashed them all down.
Yeah, but well, of course, Hamas has a charter to destroy Israel. So all they did was gear it up to actually be able to attack Israel continuously with rockets, and then one day through all the tunnels and everything. And Egypt as well is involved here, because they found out just a few days ago that the tunnels that go from the southern part of Gaza into Egypt, you know, into that land, that as the Sinai desert belonged to Israel, and they gave it to Egypt. You know what I mean? How much more do they need to be giving away? And they're actually just letting their enemies come around, even more so in force and also in amplitude. That's a good word, isn't it? You know, when you think about what they've actually stored up to come against Israel, and you've got now in the north as well, we keep talking about this as well, that is a nightmare of a situation that they're having to deal with. Israel is backed into a corner, okay? And they have the right to retaliate.
Starting to be, if it's going to be surrounded,
it is
all
surrounded.
four corners, I mean, then, you know, we could just have our newspapers in one hand and our Bible in the others.
But the thing is, what the Quran doesn't say, or the Hadith, is that they lose, okay?
No, they don't say that.
No, not Israel loses.
No. No, that's what I said. They wouldn't say
Hamas
that.
loses.
No, they wouldn't say that.
And Iran loses because they come against God's people. Woe betide them.
Okay, say good evening to you, Judith. She says, what remarkable footage of the rescue. Many, many thanks for this programme. Shalom and God bless. Paul and Ruth say, Brother Howard and Leslie, it is the Holy Spirit which reveals all truth. Thank God he reveals these things to us. Got another Ruth who says, you should send David Cameron a copy of Israel, Gaza and Hamas by Gordon Petty. Cameron is ignorant of the facts. And I'll just read one more.
Wants to remain ignorant. He probably knows, but he just, you know, they've got their own global agenda, okay? And that doesn't include Israel, really, if the truth is known.
Lynn says, good evening, Howard and Leslie. What a great programme. These Pulse videos are very informative indeed. Thank you so much for all your work.
Yeah, and we actually support them financially as well. The money's on the way. And I want to say as well, you know, what we saw there that was quite interesting in that one video about the rebellion. Gantz, I didn't know this, but he was really they were being linked to Blinken because of Biden, but they were actually trying to get Gantz to come against Netanyahu.
Right.
And that's what that whole video was about. Was and you saw bits of it. Actually, was showing you the intentions of the rebellion and the co-conspirators. And Biden's at the back of that, and Blinken. I wouldn't trust him with Blinken. He's a blinking nuisance. But anyway, the thing is that what we need to do is to pray for Israel and to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, but also that God's will be fulfilled, and that they will come to know who their Messiah is, and that he has a love for them. Jesus said, I came for the lost sheep of Israel. That was his whole thrust at the time when he started his ministry. And that's why the Phoenician woman who tried to beg for a healing, and all the others that tried to argue, but what about the dogs? They eat at the table as well. If the Jews are eating at the table, you know, and you've come for the lost sheep of Israel, you know, surely we get a little bit of the crumbs as a Gentile. And that's what, we've got more than crumbs. And we need to help people to understand what God's purpose is for Israel today, as it was yesterday and yesteryear, and what it is for us to understand And it's not easy because we're going to be the oddball out. We're going to be chastised. We're going to probably end up being thrown in prison or whatever it is. Pay the price because we stand for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not for Hamas and their God. Simple as that.
Oh, is it my turn?
Sorry, darling.
Actually, we don't.
You could do the show.
No.
Your
I
own.
was actually saying when I started that when you come down to the studio to do the programme in the evenings, I just like to lie on the sofa with a nice cup of coffee in my hand and just watch you and Tim.
Stressed.
You were so stressed.
It's been a stressful day because I have other things to deal with. You know that.
I do indeed, but yeah, well, I felt a little bit stressed as the opening music was starting.
I said to Leslie, "Go down quickly, go down. I'll follow you.
Just get started."
Just get started, and you'll have something." And you did really well, bless you, darling.
Oh dear. Yeah. But what I just want to end by saying is, if you would like to buy to get a copy of Gordon's book, then do give us a ring in the office between 9 and 5 for a donation of £20. We'll be very, very happy to send you a book. And I must say, I mean, Gordon's written lots.
Hundreds of them.
But Gordon's written 1,000.
1,000.
Wow, 1,000.
Very good.
Gordon's written many books which I've really enjoyed, but I've never ever been so passionate about wanting to share the information with you, our viewers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to say thank you very much for watching Revelation TV. Do pray for us, and we want to know what God's will and purpose is for all of us, including you at home. God bless you. Good night.